Hello Internet, today I have a slideshow for you. Now this one is maybe, quite an important one really, because we're looking at some really big key issues here in VGC. Because I saw, I don't really use Twitter much myself, but I was tagged in a few tweets or whatever, because Cybertron had asked on there who you think the best 5 players are from North America and Europe of all time, and that's quite a broad question really. It's quite a big question, quite a controversial question. Coincidentally, I have been thinking to myself over the last few days, not like who are the best players or whatever, but what actually makes a good VGC player, because format after format, season after season, there are some players that just rise to the top and do perform better than other players, and so there's a lot more to this game than just pressing buttons and all the rest of it, because we have got RNG elements, we've got luck elements, yet still some people do rise to the top. So I've boiled this down really to 5 big points, 5 points that are really the big ingredients that the best player needs to have really. So we're going to have a look through these 5 points. Maybe you can compare yourself to them and see how you think you're ranking them and all the rest of it, whatever. But let's see what the first one is. And I think the game really begins before before you sit down, even at team preview really. Team choices are really important. The metagame is quite a fascinating thing really. I mean, every year the metagame shifts and there's trends towards certain Pokemon and away from certain Pokemon, and that means that Pokemon that maybe weren't so used before have a really nice niche and do pretty well against what is currently being used. So being able to read the metagame is actually really important here. I did do a video, I don't know how long ago it was now, it was quite a long time ago, about knowing your play style, and that is quite important because everyone plays the game a little bit differently, everyone's got their own different style, and you do need to be comfortable with the team, because it's not really any good if you've got a fantastic team that's really good against the current metagame, but you don't really know how to use it, or you're really uncomfortable using a particular Pokemon there. But as well, you do need to be adaptable, and this is actually quite, this resonates with me quite a bit as well. It is quite an important thing, I think, being able to use different kinds of teams, being able to use lots of different sorts of Pokemon, even being able to use different styles of teams, because looking back over the years, the top people have actually played with different styles of teams. If we think about Cybertron, for example, he did win a regional with the team that was a lot like mine in 13 with the Lipid and the Breloom, and yet Worlds the same year he went with a really solid bulky team of like Cresselia and Heatran and Rotom and all the rest of it, stuff like that. So being able to be adaptable, being able to play with different teams is really important. And it doesn't matter how good player you are at these other points we're going to have a look at. If you haven't got a team that doesn't do well against the the current format, then you're just not going to do very well in the tournament. So really, being able to pick a team that is good for the time is really important. So even before we get into the game, the team choice is it's huge, and it's your responsibility as a player to pick what you're going to use in the tournament. So that is the one, the first key feature that we're going to look at here. The second one, as we go sort of within the game, is your foresight. Okay, so none of us are psychic. We can't see into the future, unfortunately. Not like little Xatu here. I'm sure it can learn future sight probably, but you need to be able to foresee how the game might go. You need to be able to look at your team and look at their team and come up with some kind of game plan. You need to maybe when you get into the game, a few turns have gone by, maybe you've lost a Pokemon, maybe they've lost a Pokemon. You need to be able to see your win condition. You need to be able to see that, okay, if I knock out this one Pokemon, then this Pokemon of mine is going to just wall the rest of his team or something like that. So being able to see what's kind of see what's going to happen in the future, then that can give you a really big advantage. And really the best players in the world do need to play a few turns sort of in the future in their heads to sort of get an idea of what might be going on. You need to identify threats as well to your win condition, to your game plan, because like I was saying, if they've got a particular Pokemon that will one-shot your win condition, then you need to take care of that. But also there's RNG. If you're thinking that, okay, I've got this Pokemon that can knock out his team, it will wall his team, whatever, but it's slower than something and it can flinch from a rock slide or something like that, then you need to identify that, and you need to consider that if you play to that win condition, and if you get flinched like 2 times or something, maybe that won't come true, then maybe that is something that you need to consider, and maybe you would we need to try and play to a different win condition, or try and play it a little bit differently, just sort of bearing that in mind as well. So having foresight is a really, really big thing. Actually, you do need to have a game plan. If you've got a really good team, then you can't just sort of sit there and throw Pokemon out and be like, oh, that's super effective and I'll hit that, and you need to be able to see what's going to happen. I'm sure in the past I've made a big deal about getting chip damage on things. A lot of people, like, I've seen it quite a lot actually recently, people say, oh, I just want to get a bit of damage on that Pokemon, without really thinking about it, for no reason. But if you get a bit of chip damage on it for a reason, like, with my Gravity team, okay, I want a bit of chip damage on his Groudon so that my Precipice Blades one-shots it, then that is big, and you need to be able to identify that. You need to be able to see what will happen in the future, and, to put yourself in the best position to, pull your game plan through, really. So, we've had the team choices, we've had, foresight within the game. The third big point is patience. Now, Pokemon can be, it can be a stressful game, I suppose, at times, and VGC, doubles Pokemon in general, is, I suppose, inherently a bit more fast-paced than singles as well. So, especially in the current VGC 16 format, a game might be over, in 2 or 3 turns, with a water spout, nicely placed, or, an eruption or whatever, helping hand, Precipice Blades or something. The game can be over really, really, really quickly. But you need to have patience. You need to be able to try and, as we see here, you need to be able to sort of focus on each game. You need to be able to concentrate properly and not rush into making your move. A lot of the top players, if you play them, they do actually take the full, almost the full 45 seconds of the turn to make their move. So you need to be really mentally sturdy, especially when it comes to big tournaments like Nationals, and I'm sure Worlds is going to be this year. Worlds is going to have probably more people than ever before, and it is best of 3 as well. So in one day, and a day is actually quite long when it's taking a lot of concentration. It's a long time to sit and play all of these best of 3 games, all of these individual games, but you need to every turn ideally make the best move, all things considered, and that takes a lot of concentration. That takes a lot of mental power, really, a lot of mental sturdiness. So I suppose tying in with the last slide as well, I suppose sometimes one of your win conditions might be playing to time as well. The time is always a condition, and you do need patience to, first of all, see it, and to actually do it as well. Take the full time to send out one of your Pokemon if one's been knocked out. Take your full time to pick a Pokemon from U-turn, or take your full time to make your moves. All of these things. It's all about patience. All about keeping really a clear mind to make sure that you are making the best moves. And like I've just said, you do need to focus on each game. Best of 3s. It does take a lot out of you, and not just in the individual game as well, but maybe in Swiss rounds, if you lose a game to a bit of bad luck, or just making the wrong move, just losing a game in general can be quite frustrating. It can be quite important, especially if you go to X2, for example, at Nationals. So some people call it tilt. It's when you just get rocked, basically. Your mental state just gets rocked by losing, and really you need to be able to sort of pull things together again if things don't go your way, and be patient. Don't rush into the next game. Don't be rash. Just be patient. Just pick the right moves, and you know, a lot of the top players, they do play quite slowly, so patience is actually a big thing. It's really understated. I think patience is quite important. So, on to the fourth key point. Let's find our next slide. Here we go. Now, prediction. Now, I suppose, you know, we all, I presume, play Pokemon. If you're watching this video, you know, doesn't matter if it's singles or doubles or, you know, rotation or triples or whatever. You know, prediction is always going to be a part of the game, and you know, people think of prediction as being different things in a way. Like the format, the current VGC 16 format that we're in. I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel like there's so much good prediction that can go on really, because, you know, if they've got their Kyogre out and you switch your Groudon in, then, you know, next turn chances are they're going to withdraw their Kyogre. Like, so it's not really a prediction if you, like, you know, go for an Ice Beam on that slot anticipating a Salamence or something like that. That's just a solid play covering switches, basically. Like, I suppose that's a prediction, but you know, by prediction here I mean like making the right move each turn, like these horrible 50-50s. I've got a picture of Smeargle here because Smeargle is really the ultimate 50-50 Pokemon, really. Like, you know, is it going to Dark Void, so, you know, should I taunt it? Is it going to Wide Guard, so should I use my single, you know, attacking moves? Is it going to use Follow Me? Should I use my, you know, spread attacks? It's it's a nasty Pokemon, isn't it? But it's just there to illustrate. You need to get into your opponent's head, and you know, prediction isn't really guessing. I don't know. Some people might think of it as sort of glorified guessing in a way, but there are things you can do to maybe make your guesses or your prediction maybe a little bit more fruitful, and that is by noticing patterns of play, like noticing your opponent's tendencies, noticing you know, the trends that they do. You know, like if in a best of three they lead with the same thing all the time, then, you know, maybe if you play them in top cut, you can, you know, kind of, you know, not assume, but maybe consider that they will lead that way again. You know, tendencies and patterns in that if you're playing someone who plays really, really defensively, like makes lots of defensive switches, then maybe you can, you know, if it's safe, or maybe if your back is against the wall and it's not necessarily safe, but you need to make a big play to come back into the game, you can make some sort of prediction, like, okay, so they are going to switch, you know, something into their Scrafty or whatever to get another Intimidate off. You know, maybe you can try and punish that switch a little bit. So, you know, prediction, yeah, some people, like, it's not really guessing, to be honest. It does require some thought, and it's really one of the most interesting aspects of playing VGC, I think. I love the whole psychological thing. I mean, VGC is very, very psychological in general, but prediction, like raw predictions, like playing each turn, what are they going to do, and what is my best move to, you know, you know, play against that sort of thing. That is really important. It might seem, you know, really common sense that, okay, you know, you need to be good at prediction to, you know, be good at VGC, but you know, making the right moves and noticing the trends, noticing how they play, noticing, you know, what they do, and trying to capitalize on that as well. You know, obviously, if you know, you can bear that in mind yourself with how you play as well. You know, if you play one game really defensively or something, maybe you can anticipate them to maybe play a bit more aggressive, try and catch a switch or something, and maybe you can switch up your, you know, sort of playing in that game or whatever. But it's like this one slide, this one key aspect of prediction really does interest me with VGC. I really love predictions. And we'll come back onto the fifth point now, which is knowledge, which again might seem, you know, common sense, but knowledge is huge. I mean, like, people who come into playing VGC, you know, maybe from singles or whatever, have probably already got a lot of this, you know, this aspect of being a good VGC player, the knowledge. So, you know, you obviously, you know, at the basic level, you need to know, you know, what moves do, and you know, the accuracy and their added effects, and you know, all sorts of stuff like that. But maths is quite important as well. You need to know, you know, like probabilities. You need to be able to sort of work out what your best odds are. So, you know, should you go for like, you know, a Rock Slide Flinch and a Swagger, or a Rock Slide Flinch and a Thunder Wave, or should you try and double protect and go for a Thunder Wave, or double protect and swagger, or something like that. Think about all of the odds, all of these different probabilities that can happen, because really, VGC games do go by, like, in the grand, compared to like chess or whatever. One VGC game is quite quick, and so we play lots of VGC games, so being able to get in each game the probabilities in your favour is quite a big thing, actually, and over a period of time you should see better results if you do get the probabilities in your favour. Excuse me. You need to have good knowledge of like abilities, like not only what they do, but things like the order that they activate, so you can see speed tiers and all that sort of stuff, but like having the knowledge of things like skill swap, like okay, if my Cresselia has got Desolate Land on it and I skill swap the Kyogre, then which ability is going to be active, or all of these little quirks that like can come into effect. Like one really obscure thing that I tested earlier on in the season is like if you've got something like an early bird Kangaskhan and you burn a turn of sleep, but then you Mega Evolve it the next turn, how many sleep turns will it have left? Not that would ever really come into a serious game, but it's just little bits of knowledge like that can sometimes in really obscure situations come into effect, actually. And knowing about obscure Pokemon is really important as well, because I don't know, I mean, like, I've used a lot of obscure Pokemon, to be honest. Like, VGC 14, I did a few little funky games with a Chimeco with, like, skill swap and, all the rest of it. In the German Nationals this year, we've just seen some guy using a Regigigas as well, which is not a Pokemon that you see every day, but, if you've got a good knowledge of the game, then you will know that Regigigas has got access to Wide Guard, and it has got access to Icy Wind, and you can maybe try and start to, not really assume the 4 moves that it's got, but get a good idea of what it might be able to do against you, and play accordingly as well. So having a good knowledge is, obviously going to give you an advantage. Does Grass Whistle affect grass types? Does Glare affect Garchomp? All of these things that some things. Well, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably already know most things, but there might be these one things every once in a while that just sort of trips you up. So it's always good to have a good knowledge, because then if it does come down to it, like in an important game, you want to know exactly what will happen in the game. So some of these points might have seemed quite common sense, I suppose. Team choices, you need to pick your right team before the tournament, that's good for the meta game. Foresight, you need to be able to identify win conditions, you need to be able to come up with some kind of game plan as to how you will win the game. You need to have patience. A lot of tournaments now are best of 3. You need to be able to, like, maybe cope with one loss if you take it. You need to just stay mentally really strong. Prediction, you need to be quite good at predictions. You need to sort of have a good idea of how they might play, so maybe watching their patterns, watching their tendencies, and make your predictions based on them. And you do need to have a good knowledge on the game as well. So here's all 5 of them. Team choices, foresight, patience, prediction, knowledge. So rate yourself. Maybe this video will help you sort of identify parts of your game that are maybe lacking a little bit. Like, I'll do myself, right now. Like, I think that my strengths are in prediction. I think, when it comes to turn-by-turn prediction, I am really one of the best that there is. Knowledge, I think I have a really good knowledge of the game. I do like using some obscure Pokemon. So I know what a Regigigas does. I know what a Claydol would do, or whatever. I don't know. All these really obscure Pokemon. I know what they do, and there's not really many Pokemon that will sort of catch me off guard. Like, maybe I'll consider, or maybe that Bishop's got Quick Guard, or maybe that Scizzor's got Quick Guard, or all these little things that I do spend a lot of time looking at Pokemon, and maybe not so much these days, but a few years ago I spent a lot of time just studying each Pokemon and learning what they do and what happens to them, and so every year when maybe some move tutors are released, it's always nice to sort of add into your knowledge that okay, so since X and Y were released, Sableye can learn Quash now, and stuff like that. It's really, really interesting to keep on top of that. So, you know, prediction knowledge I think is really good for me. My team choices, I think, are probably the things that let me down most. I'm sure you guys know, just from watching my YouTube alone, really, that I do like to stick to the same team. I'm really stubborn with my teams, and so, you know, and a few people last year, VGC 15, did actually comment to me. You know, I'm sure Billa said, and I'm sure Arash said to me that you really need to stop using this, you know, Liquid Brillium team, because it's just not very good anymore. And, you know, I guess I just ignored them. You know, I did go positive at Worlds, didn't I? But like, I didn't top cut or anything, unfortunately. Yeah, I made it through to day 2. That's an achievement, I guess, with Life with Brillium still. But no, I'm really stubborn with my team choices, and that is really one thing that pulls me down. And I'm not very adaptable either. If someone put in front of me like a you know, a Wolf Glick or a Lio team, I would have a hard time using it. So, you know, patience is maybe a thing that I could try and work on as well. So, you know, I'm having a little bit of a break from Pokemon right now. I'm not really playing too much. I'm not playing as much as I have been in the last few months as well. And I'm hoping that that's going to build my patience back up, because if you burn yourself out of Pokemon, you get sort of fed up of playing Pokemon, and like, if you get a bit of bad luck or if you lose a game, then you're prone to, a lot more prone to getting annoyed. So having a bit of a break is maybe good to replenishing some patience. Foresight, I think, is actually another one of my really good points. I'm actually quite good at looking through win conditions and seeing how the game might play out. I suppose that kind of ties in maybe a little bit to prediction too, but you know, that's me. And you know, I'm not going to, you know, sit here and you know, go through everyone, but you know, maybe, you know, I just mentioned Lio and Wolf. I think, you know, their strengths are really in patience. Both of them are very solid players. They like to switch a lot. They play quite defensively. They're very solid in their moves, and they're very good at picking out their win conditions and you know, seeing how they're going to win the game as well. So like, you know, Foresight and patience are like really, like, obviously they're good at all 5 points. You know, the top players are good at all 5 points, but you know, where players really shine, you know, those are maybe like Foresight, patience for, you know, Lio and Wolf. Maybe, you know, Arash, who's just won the German national. Maybe things like, you know, his team choices, like he started using, you know, Jumpluff, which in the sun gives him a really, you know, good time against Big Six, as long as he hits the sleep powders, you know, that sort of thing. And prediction, I think, is one of Arash's, you know, big points as well, because I always think to Worlds in 2013, me and Arash were both 2-0, and in round 3 we played each other. I think like Arash won game 1, I think, and I won game 2, so it came down to a third game, and I think it was 2-2 at the end, and it basically came down to just one move, who won the whole best of 3, and he called my bluff in a way. He made the really good prediction there, and that won him that best of 3. And you know, he went on to, you know, Top Cut and win the World Championship, didn't he? So you know, if that one move, you know, it's just funny how VGC, how Pokemon is, and if that one move, you know, if I'd done the other thing, then I would have won that game. You know, the whole tournament would have played out differently. So you know, it's just an example really, but you know, you can look at these 5 points. I think these are the biggest 5 points, the main 5 points that really constitute the best VGC players. So you know, think of yourself, think about how you can improve, and you know, hope this video was, you know, helped you maybe a little bit. You know, I think it's quite interesting to think about stuff like this. So thanks a lot, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this. Hope you got something from it. If you liked it, then, you know, like and share and do all of the other, you know, YouTube stuff that you can do, all the nice stuff. I will read all of your comments, obviously, as well. I always do. So thanks a lot, guys, and goodbye for now.